Lynch Mob, a novel written by T.N. Sterling. All rights reserved. This book and or any portion thereof may not be reproduced or used in any manner without the express written permission of the copyright owner and or publisher. Note: if you have witnessed a crime and called the police, that is not snitching. That's protecting your community and others. By T.N. Sterling. Show your support for the author's online free reading publication of this book. Cash App us at $Sterling Family LLC. Lynch Mob, a lawless crowd convened to attack and put to death a person without a legal trial. Chapter 1. Kane exited the mop closet with one certainty on his mind: slapping that motherfucking snitch Robert Jones' face off with the wet mop he carried. Although while crossing the open expanse of the cell block, Kane kept such intentions carefully guarded as he walked past the iron table where Robert Jones sat laughing it up with two more suspected snitches. Pausing in step, Kane turned to Robert, boldly interrupting such joviality of a snitch last week of incarceration. Robert Jones were about to become a free man, and only after serving 60 months on a 240-month sentence. "Hey, Rob." Kane even offered this snitch a friendly smile. "I forgot to tell you, your cellie wants to see you." Robert frowned up at Kane a moment before quickly recomposing his frown back into a grin. Kane's acknowledgement of his existence for once threw Robert off balance momentarily, but it was nothing to get twisted about. One of Kane's running partners had just moved into Robert's cell a few days prior, most likely with the scheme of getting the cell to himself once Robert was released. Therefore, communications with the prison's leader of some sort of secret gang, whispered to be the Lynch Mob, should have been expected. "Yeah, cool," Robert answered. "I'll be there in a sec." Kane looked over the three convicts, which gave meaning to the word inmates, and nonchalantly proceeded up the stairwell without another word, as if just another day for cleaning. Luckily for him, Robert hadn't paid attention to Kane's impatient glare, transfixed upon the cell block's clock hanging just above the correctional officer's desk. Because time was moving, and at 5 minutes before noon, Kane's timing was off and running scared if this hit didn't proceed on a timely basis. It is better that 10 guilty persons escape than one innocent suffer. Kane silently pondered the words of Sir William. Subsequently, the Lynch Mob was 20 deep at USP Leavenworth, and over the past 8 months, their membership numbers had grown throughout the nation's prison system at an alarming rate. Nonetheless, so had the snitches. Therefore, the Lynch Mob was about to become the snitches just what this haven in the federal government should have foreseen: the death penalty. And yes, it's true, a person could receive up to 30 years for touching a government snitch. But as the Lynch Mob perceived it, what the fuck can they do if you start making the bitches disappear? Simply leaving no trace of the government's bowel waste. This had been Kane's master plan 8 years in the making when his ex-girlfriend told everything she knew about Kane and his younger brother Abel bank robbery operation. Although she had been immediately dealt with for such acts of betrayal, Kane made a point that the Lynch Mob would never turn a blind eye to female informants. Therefore, Recruiting female members had been a top priority, and this September 24th, 15 federal prisons from as high as USP level to as low as camps were about to experience a disappearance in the wrecked population as never heard of before. Chapter 2. As Robert Jones climbed the last step and rounded the right corner of the upper tier, making his way 3 cells down, the correctional officer glanced up at the time, stood, and began walking the cell block, making his way straight for the very far end. Yes, he knew the play, and thanks to him providing the hydrochloric acid, he also knew that Robert Jones, aka Snitch Jones, would be disappearing without a trace. Hell, what could he do? A revolution was about to take place, and like the mysterious woman had clearly stated to him before handing over a briefcase filled with $50,000, you either join the club and receive some free money, or allow another CO to collect, and you yourself become one of the disappearing acts for knowing too much. Yeah, in a way Mike felt sorry for Snitch Jones, but what the fuck could he do? The briefcase delivery woman had shown up at his home as he was leaving for work. Therefore, the Lynch Mob was bigger than him, plus he had a wife and 3-year-old daughter's safety to think about. Making his walkthrough of Unit A's very far end, Mike paused and pretended to be interested in something in the Mexican's television station. He wanted to be as far from the action as possible, which was due to transpire in exactly 60 seconds, beginning at USP Leavenworth and then nationwide. Mike mused that correctional officers from all over the country were somewhere at that exact moment, staying clear just as he were. Notwithstanding at least one snitch from more than a dozen federal prisons were about to be erased. Nodding to himself with a slight smile, Mike pondered, maybe the world would finally get the message. Stop snitching. Yo, Selly, what can I do for... The words ceased on Robert's lips the moment he turned into his cell and glanced upon the 3 individuals standing in wait, 2 of which was from another cell block and rumored to be part of the Lynch Mob special enforcers. Yet Robert was too slow to turn and run, and it all jumped off in a matter of seconds. From the moment Robert thought to bolt from the doorway, Kane caught him in the face with a death blow from the wet mop he carried, instantly snapping Robert's head back as his body crumbled hard to the concrete floor amidst the awaiting 3 Lynch Mob crewmen, Dre, Mark, and Ron. Stepping into the cell and closing the door behind him, Kane immediately covered the door window with a piece of cardboard paper. Something everyone in prison do while needing privacy for either taking a shit, conducting a drug deal, or handling whatever their vices are. When Kane turned back around, he took note of Mark and Dre, wasting no time retrieving the razor-sharp Grim Reaper silk from underneath the mattress. The Grim Reaper's looking silk is an instrument sworn and covered by the Lynch Mob as the hand of judgment and death. Kane observed quietly as Dre swiftly brought the Grim Reaper silk full power down upon the intendant's neck. With very little effort, he detached Robert's head from the rest of his body. Glancing at his Iron Man watch, Kane silently gave a nod of approval, given the time displayed 3 minutes past noon. Dre, Mark, and Ron's eyes lift from the lifeless body leaking blood on the concrete floor to meet Kane's, and everyone offered silent smiles of recognition for what they had accomplished. Knowing at that exact moment the Lynch Mob's instrument of judgment and death had come to rest upon 14 more snitches' necks at 14 other federal prisons around the country. therefore soon offering the federal government one hell of a puzzle to have to unravel. Sir William Blackstone once said, "It is better that 10 guilty persons escape than one innocent suffer." Kane paused and glared from the bloody body before staring in the eyes of his men. There will be no more suffering because of snitches. They each nodded and bumped knuckles with one another in agreement. Kane then added with a wide grin like the Grim Reaper himself, "Run. Start the cleanup. I'ma phone my brother." Ron pulled the glass containers filled with hydrochloric acid from under the iron bunk while Drake took possession of Kane's wet mop. Everyone was feeling on top of the world from such a easy, silent kill. The plan was good, and from there, they knew the Lynch Mob family couldn't be stopped. Yes, together, they would deal death to snitches for years to come, and it wouldn't matter whether you were a preacher, teacher, police, or judge. If you stepped in their way, you'd get taken away. No mercy. Chapter 3. Saturday afternoon, and Abel sat dutifully typing on his laptop at Kane and Abel Incorporated, enjoying the juicy lip service of his special personal assistant, Lipe, hand-picked from one of Oakland's special massage parlors, down on her knees, sucking the last droplets of cum from his dick. Yes, at any moment Abel expected to have to dismiss her services for the day while he spoke privately with his brother Kane. Yet for the moment, he couldn't think of disallowing this Asian sex goddess from doing what she did best, trying to suck the soul from his dick. Although he knew if Kane learned of such activity, he'd want to kick his brother's ass. Yet Abel mused a little paid sex around the office seemed harmless enough. Plus, there was really nothing to worry about. No one could tell from his computer that he had hacked into the Federal Bureau of Prisons database and was secretly ironing their response to missing snitches. Yet missing they were, and the Federal Bureau of Prisons didn't know what to think or do next. Their first response was a national security lockdown. Now they had phoned in the FBI. The phone line rang, and Abel's office secretary, Latani, buzzed the intercom. "Mr. Adams, you have a call on line 1. Kane and Abel Adams were two brothers of a kind. Kane, being the oldest at 32, was tall and slim, with a muscular build and dark coffee and cream complexion. The perfect mixture for a man considered hard and demanding respect. Now Abel, on the other hand, was of the same height and build, but had a more fair-skinned complexion and was only 26 years old. Back in school, he was known as Yellow Boy. And just as it was back then, Kane was the muscle and leader. Even today, Abel stayed behind the scenes laundering profits and playing corporate boy, while Kane and his crew took all the risks and hits. Abel pushed Lume's head off his dick and straightened himself as if Kane was capable of seeing through the phone line. "Lume, why don't you head home for the day? This call's important." Running a hand across her wet lips, Lume winked up at Abel, still resting on her knees, and issued him a wicked grin. "Only if come by house." Abel immediately shook his head. No, I will not. The word is, come by my house. You know I got a girl. This is strictly business, remember? Never outside the office." Lume gave a sigh. Abel waved a dismissive hand to her and lifted the phone receiver to his ear. "Hey, bro, right on time." 6 months later, a triple black super stretch limousine pulled to the curb before the front gate of the monstrous United States Penitentiary, located in Leavenworth, Kansas. The time was exactly 12 o'clock midnight, and Kane's victorious exit from the monstrous, notorious maximum security federal prison was to begin at any moment, which housed some of America's most dangerous prisoners, from Machine Gun Kelly to Robert Stroke, aka the Birdman of Alcatraz, to James Earl Ray and countless others. The limousine driver had stepped from the vehicle and opened Abel's door before he had a chance to even realize it. At the moment, Abel was deep in thought, pondering what his brother's future plans were concerning the fake construction company he insists Abel create. "Here you are, sir," the chauffeur announced, extending a hand toward the gravely intimidating prison before them. Abel shouldered the thought. He wanted no parts of this place, yet he stepped from the Chrysler 300M dressed to kill, in a soft peach Louis Vuitton silk shirt and matching LV boat shoes, Miami white linen pants with a platinum chain and a diamond rose gold Rolex watch. The outside prison lights caused the diamonds on his Rolex to show out, and of course, the chauffeur's eyes couldn't help but take note. "Thanks, but I'm just waiting on my brother to bolt from those doors any minute. Think you can give us some privacy?" Abel asked. The chauffeur offered a slow, understanding smile and nod. "Not a problem, sir," then made his way back to stand in front of the limousine. Abel stood there a moment, staring up at the human cage made for giants, before glancing back down at the $1,400 bottle of Hennessy in his hand. Abel was just thinking how grateful he was not to have gone to prison for his part played in their bank robbery operations. He had gotten off with 10 years probation. "Damn, bro, you coming out or what?" he whispered to himself. It had been 8 years since the two of them were separated. Kane was 24 and Abel was fresh out of high school. Bank jacking. Except Kane and his crew would jack the bank's vault as soon as the employees showed up for work, and would leave as soon as the front doors opened for business. Kane and his crew would break into the bank the night before and surprise the employees the moment they arrived, and then make them assist in cleaning out the vault. He had made millions in under a month, and Abel, being a computer whiz kid and all, with a natural nastiness for setting up bullshit corporations like check cashing spots and now the construction company, was the perfect man for washing their money, making it all look legally earned. But in the end, some crazy female Kane was fucking got in her feelings and lied to the FBI that he had scoped out Bank of America during the Memphis and May celebration, having no idea that Kane really was a bank robber. And from there, Kane had to serve 10 years in prison for simple conspiracy. Abel received 10 years probation, and the nutty female received the first unofficial Lynch Mob death sentence. Yes, she disappeared, never to be heard from again. Although the feds couldn't prove her statement is factual, Kane decided to take a plea agreement and stop them from continuing to look into his ill-gotten financial fortune. So in the end, Kane convinced them that he was about to rob a bank for the first time, for the thrill of it. And of course, after concluding that rich people are strange, the feds bought that bullshit like a crooked cop running up on a baller with 10 grand in his pocket. They took it. Suddenly, the exit door to the prison opened and Kane emerged wearing the gear he had asked Abel to send in a week prior. Dressed in all black. Kane sported a black and white Sox cap, black Gucci sweats, and matching jacket, with a hot pair of retro 7 Air Jordans. Abel couldn't spot the black stainless steel Cartier watch he had paid the guards to smuggle to him, but he was quite sure that there was no way Kane would exit the prison with his prison-bought Iron Man watch. "Hey, bro!" Kane yelled through a grin while throwing his hands in the air and taking the staircase 2 steps at a time before meeting his brother in a bear hug. "Yeah, been a long time, bro," Abel choked out through powerful slaps on his back. Then, just as sudden, Abel thrust a bottle between them from behind his back. "Got you some Hennessy." The chauffeur now walked to their side and opened the door before them. "Gentlemen." The two brothers hopped in the presidential-style vehicle, still laughing about everything, but nothing in particular. Really, it was just the feelings of finally being together again which burst forth, and by the time the driver learned of his next destination, which was the nearest strip club, a calmness now settled in around the brothers, whom had known no other family beyond themselves. As the limousine slowly pulled away from the notorious prison, Abel turned to his brother with the burning question that had caused him many sleepless nights. "Kane, you gotta tell me the future of our company, especially since the Lynch Mob has grown far beyond the prison walls." Since their first hit 6 months ago, the Lynch Mob had been continuously busy all over the country, knocking snitches off left and right, making their bodies disappear without a trace. Yet it had all been just for practice. The Lynch Mob numbers had grown well, and many of their members, white, black, Mexican, men and women, were now free on the streets and still sworn to the Lynch Mob family. Therefore, Kane and Abel's corporate funds were getting tight, and from all the spending it took to pay off certain people to ensure each hit went in accordance, notwithstanding 2 months prior, Kane had instructed Abel to create a construction company, for which he had to purchase a lot of expensive equipment and vehicles. Wherefore, with millions of dollars per month spent and none coming in, Abel knew that their downtown penthouse lifestyles wouldn't last much longer if they didn't start to make some serious money moves. Some big money moves, and soon. Kane offered a serious grin before answering his brother. "Abel, the Lynch Mob family is about to get PAID, he said, spelling the word. "Handling so much dispute resolution, we got to start purchasing our own cemeteries nationwide."